Andre, man, welcome to the show. Man. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, buddy. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, anytime. You got your water, you got your Perrier there.
Yeah.
I would,
it's the only thing I drink. I know, I saw it. I'll go through this.
Take us through kind of what your life has been like since high school kind of ended and making that transition into adulthood. So
I actually got into work right after high school. So I'm my high school sweetheart. We were together. I got right into work. I was never really good at school.
Yeah.
I was very much a hands-on learning. So as soon as high school was done, I got into work and ended up moving out to Toronto. Okay. I got into the retail industry. Yeah. Believe it or not, I was very shy when I first started.
No kidding. Yeah, knowing you now, I'm like, not so much.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But nice. I think it was such a great opener for me. Yeah. So I got into retail. I think anybody out of high school who gets into retail or restaurant business, I think is a really good break into getting to know customer service. Because the biggest thing I notice nowadays is that customer service with a lot of companies is really bad. Really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, no say.
But anyway, so I did high school. I did retail. Ended up by the age of 20, I was running an import company out of Toronto. Yeah. That had a bunch of retail stores. So I was well known within like the Aldo group.
Okay, yeah.
Aldo, Pegalo, Access, Marvoy, Christian for Transit. So I moved up really, really quick with them, and then I actually started working for Sunglass Hut.
Nice.
I was Sunglass Hut's youngest manager, I think, in Canada.
Oh, wow.
So broke a lot of records and did a lot of training. Funny thing is that I created programs that was used across Canada because my sales were so high. Yeah. So people were calling me. They didn't know I was 18. I know.
Catch them off guard. Hello, how's it going?
So they'd call me. I created memos and programs, and people were following up, and it was a great success. And then I'd go to a conference expecting to meet me, and I go up there, and they're like, "No, seriously, who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Andre from such." Yeah. And they're like, "No, dude, like what's?" I was like, "That's fine."
You can't drink the wine with us.
I know. So then transitioned from there to Toronto. By the age of 20. I was headhunted to go work for an import company.
Nice.
They only had 2 stores. They asked me to expand to 11 stores across Ontario and Quebec. Okay. And they started doing wholesale, and then I was running their Eaton store, which is a massive, massive store. Nice. And that's work related, but leading up to that, I had gotten married and had my son.
Oh, nice.
During that whole transition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So fast forward from high school to the age of 21, I had actually been divorced. Married, kid, moved to Toronto, divorced.
Wow.
And
that's a wild transition.
That's a lot. When people say, what happens in 5 years? A hell of a lot.
All of it. Yeah, pretty much all of it.
A lot. It's all to say that people, I think people coming out of high school think, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to have this job and this is my transition and this is what I'm going to get into. Mm-hmm. When I would say almost everything that someone's going to plan out of high school is likely not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and that I think is a tough pill to swallow for not only people coming out of high school, but for parents who actually pay their kids.
They're like, do you waste this many years? Or I've heard it where my parents and sometimes other parents say the same, and they're like, oh man, how do you feel that you're not doing something directly related to your field of study? Yeah. Do you feel you've wasted that amount of time? Yeah. It's like, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Yeah, that's not your decision.
Well, I think, and it might have changed statistically. Last time I looked it up, statistically, I think 75% of people who go to university or college for a certain degree end up in a career path that is not in line with, is not what they went to school for. It's not to say they didn't get them there. Right. And I think, we're jumping ahead of myself, but I own an HR company. And that's what I often see is that someone's coming out of school and they say, I need to take this path. Mm-hmm. And they're having troubles getting into that career or that industry and struggle because they're so focused on, I have no choice but to go into this to make up for my... And I don't know if it's necessarily the right path. The reason is because, so obviously you're having a lot of young followers watching this.
Yes.
And I think it's very important for them to know that many industries and many jobs will require many skills that often are trained or better emphasized in different industries.
Absolutely.
So when what you learn in one industry easily gets jumped in to put another. If anything, it could actually really benefit another industry that's not even open to, or not used to it, right? So from that point on, I was doing the retail, and I had started my own marketing company. So after retail, so
you're about 25 at this point? 23, 24?
23. It was one of those things that I had, so single parent, had my son. I've never been irresponsible. I was always, always a good father. Always wanted to be there as a provider. So, and also I want to set an example. And so for me to not succeed in life was almost like a non-option.
Yes, it wasn't really going to happen. You had to be the example, right?
I had to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most of the decisions I made in life there's no plan B.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people, make the mistake of, even when you're opening a business, you'll have a possible investor say, well, what's plan B? The philosophy doesn't work well with me because I feel you always have one step out the door. You can have other options, but it's not a plan B.
Right, it's different ways to make plan A work.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plan B is making plan A work.
Yeah. That's fair.
So being that I was running this import company and I was traveling all over the place, I actually lived out of hotels for 2 years.
Wow, what was that?
Because it's fun for a bit.
Yeah.
For like a month.
Imagine.
And then you come to find out that regardless of which hotel you're in which state or which country, they're all the same.
All the same, man.
I have some crazy stories, but we'll save it for another time.
Yeah, we'll break into it another
Yeah,
day.
they're all life building for sure. The problem I got into is that when I had my when I was traveling, I was going to all these different cities, and my job was to fix stores. So some stores had lower sales, and the sales go up and down. So my job would go in, fix, rebuild stores, rehire staff, train, manage. And when I'd go there for 2 weeks, they'd see a massive spike. Things would go up, things would go really well. After I'd leave, they slowly start to dwindle, but I had to hit up all the stores to do this on an ongoing basis. So there's really no point for me to have an apartment because I was always on the road. Right. But then it got to a point where there was an opportunity for me to open up, because I had contacts within Montreal, to open up a marketing company. That was exciting because if you've ever been to Montreal, Montreal is such a diverse, culturally, industry-wise. It's amazing. Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. Very big into printing. So I made a few contacts there, and I came up with a concept to... Do you want me to jump into that one?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. 100%. So I came up with a concept of... Because when I would do trade shows, I would actually help companies, retail stores, and restaurants, and martini lounges. I would actually show them how to connect with the right people and the contacts and build those relationships. So I thought maybe I'm going to do that for the real estate industry. Even though I didn't know the real estate industry, advertising is advertising, regardless of the industry.
Yeah, okay. All the kind of basic fundamentals apply.
Fundamentals apply, right? Okay. And most industries want connections. They want contacts. They want relationships. And I thought, because Montreal was a basis for print, they have print houses everywhere. It's very, very cheap. My goal was to create a marketing company that allowed real estate agents to build relationships with plumbers, locksmith, mortgage companies, anything related to buying a home.
Yeah.
And what I did was, and people will see this around, I started this, it's got to be like 18, 19 years ago. Wow. Give or take, yeah, around 18, 19 years ago. I was one of the first ones to do it, and now you see it everywhere. So it's those real estate folders that you open up, you see your legal papers. Yeah. So those have been around. What I did was I started the concept of printing advertisement on the inside. I did this like 18 years ago. I see it to this day. Like it started off in the U.S. I have a company out of Montreal from a 22-year-old. And now you see it everywhere. Yeah. It's just wild. Like now when I'm doing real estate deals and I'm talking to clients, they show me, I'm like, oh my God, I came up with this concept 18 years ago. That's wild. But it was beautiful. I would literally throw, like, you know what I see in the movies? I throw a dart against a U.S. map, and I'd be like, I'm going to Florida.
That's where I'm going.
That's where I'm going. And the challenge was, I had 10 days to make $10,000.
Huh.
it was a no-fail situation.
Yeah, no kidding.
The beauty of why I did it in the States was because the exchange rate at the time was like 0.6. So I could bring back $10,000 American, and it was actually being like between 14,000 or 16,000. Yeah. So it was like a massive uptake coming in. And I would hit up 2 cities, 2 projects per month. So my 20,000 a month. So for 2 years, 2 years, I would, some people say, I lived amazing. Again, I lived out of hotels for 2 years, traveled all over the place, made 6 figures, probably because I couldn't spend it. Always traveling. But I lived out of hotels, and again, it's not every story that I have that is crazy is positive. Like there's some, it's just, there's a lot of messed up stuff that happens.
What's one that comes to mind then that you took a big lesson out of?
That I took a lesson
in the early stages of traveling through hotels. It's kind of something unexpected.
You know what? So I would say what that, I'm not going to say out of hotels, but what that job has taught me, because I was working with everything from mortgage brokers, real estate brokers, CEOs of banks. I would do national deals. The reason I say that is because I would work with a guy who's just doing a pest control, who's a one-man show, to the CEO of an international or national bank.
Who runs it hundreds of thousands of
Exactly. And what I've noticed is that everybody's the same.
Yeah?
Everybody's the same. Jeez. It doesn't, there are people put on different facades. There's different egos.
That makes sense.
Even within, like, if you're a one-man show, I've seen people who pretend to be something they're not. I've seen major egos. I've seen CEOs who are the most humble people I've ever met, and I've seen the biggest egos. And what I've come to realize is that because you don't know how someone's going to be, all I could do is be myself and offer a great service. Yeah. If it works, great. Yeah. If it doesn't,
it is what it is.
But during that process, like I said, things weren't necessarily always that easy. I did a project in Hawaii for a month.
Nice. That must have been fun.
So yes and no.
Yeah, it is.
This is. I'll give you an example of what people will be like. Oh my God, you worked a month in Hawaii? Absolutely. When I arrived, so I would actually negotiate deals with hotels to get me to stay there for free, because I would actually advertise their stuff within the brochure, because people visit Hawaii to buy real estate. Right. Therefore, the real estate agents would build relationships with these hotels, so that when a client comes and visits, you're like, hey, we have a relationship with the Westin, we have a relationship with whatever, right?
Yeah. So now, sorry, do you cold approach them about it?
Kind of like typically, I would always call ahead of time and set it up.
Okay.
I got very cocky and said, once I get there, I'll do it myself, because I just really wanted to get going. That's where I failed. So here's the thing.
I see that.
Hotels in Hawaii don't need help. They don't need help.
That's a good point.
So
that's fair.
I got there and I spent 3 days over the weekend trying to convince hotels. So I had to stay out of my vehicle. I had money. Yeah. They didn't have Airbnbs back then. Every hotel was booked.
Yeah, it's Hawaii,
right? No, exactly. And eventually I ended up finding one, and I worked out a deal.
Nice.
But during that whole process, because there was a timeline difference, they didn't have, so there's a 5-hour time difference. So twice when I was in Hawaii, I ran out of money. So I would always get my assistant back home to wire me money.
Nice.
But when there's a 5-hour time difference and it's on a Friday, and you realize at the end of the day, Friday, that you have no more money, and you call the office, you can't get a hold of them. There was no cell phones. There was no, can't get a hold of anyone. So now I have no money all weekend.
Yeah, me thinking now, I'm like, oh, that seems not a big deal. And you're like, nope.
No. Everything in Hawaii is expensive. Okay. I had no money for nothing. So this happened twice. No matter how much I planned, it happened twice. And I'd be walking down the street, and I would have homeless people ask me for change. And in my head, I'm like, you have more money than I do right now.
Yeah, I see that cup.
I see that cup.
Loonies you have.
Yeah, you are a very rich man compared to me right now.
Oh, that's fun.
So I've had very amazing stories similar to that in different states. I've had guns being pulled on me. It's just very, it's a mixed bag. So anyways, it was a great part of my life. 2 years, did really, really well. But then what ended up happening was my son turning 4, I didn't have the freedom to take the time off that I wanted to, because now he's doing evening, like just weekends, right? So I couldn't just spend 2 weeks with him.
Right.
So I had to make a career change. I ended up moving to Ottawa, living on my best friend's floor in his bachelor apartment with his dog for 3 months because I was just I did well, so I'm like, I'm just gonna relax and figure out what I want to do.
Whereabouts in Ottawa?
Off of Bank Street.
Okay, yeah. I lived off of Woodruff.
Okay, yeah.
4 years, yeah.
So I enjoyed my time there. I wasn't really in a big rush to find something, and I ended up starting a job working for the world's largest employment agency.
Okay.
I think they had 700,000 employees globally, and they had a really big presence in Ottawa. So I started working for them. At that point, I had no idea that industry existed. I had no idea, like headhunting and temp agency, that kind of stuff. I didn't know it existed. So when I was brought in, they asked me to come in to meet up with them because they had saw my file somewhere. And I'm like, does this stuff really happen? They're like, yeah, a lot of companies need that help and support.
Somebody to go, wow.
I was only with them for about 6 months until I realized I could offer a better service by myself.
Nice.
You know, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this back home in Sudbury. I had no idea what was here, what was, you know. I just knew that no matter what, I'll work it out. I'll figure it out.
Nice.
And I think I spent a year doing the business plan. Only to realize after making a connection with a certain company, they were like, oh no, there's all this other stuff that you need to do to legally even operate.
Yeah.
And if I would have known that at first, I probably wouldn't have done it.
No.
No, there was a lot. I was already too much into it, already committed to it. But what this company taught me was, this is what you're missing, laid it all out, but they became a partner of mine. They loved what I was doing. They loved my drive, my personality, and they said, we've never worked with a new company. They would typically work with established agencies.
Okay.
And I met up with, it was my first time in front of like a whole panel of a board, and I went in there, and they're pretty much saying, like, I had a massive business plan.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And in the end, they said, you know, why do you think this is going to work? I was like, well, I have no choice. Like, it has to work. You know, and I laid out every reason. I said, this is who my competition was. This is what I'm going to offer. Just went down the path, and it turns out that the main guy who's owned it forever, actually was friends with an owner of which would be a competition here in Sudbury.
No kidding.
Yeah, and he was like, okay, well, I'm friends with this guy. He goes, what are you going to do about that? So after I told him my plan, he was like, okay, he goes, I want to work with this kid.
Nice.
I'm like, let's do this.
Nice.
And they did ask me, that was the first time somebody asked me, what's your plan B? I was like, I have none. And the guy who initially set me up at the meeting kind of like looked around like, oh, I screwed up. You know, like thinking I screwed up, like that I wasn't prepared. I said, no, that's on purpose. And I told him, I said, my plan B is to make plan A work.
So right off the bat, it was like, I don't have one.
I don't have one. You know, I'm going to make it work regardless, right? I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I never really needed a lot.
I get that, yeah.
And I think when you look at someone's motivation to start a business, for me, it was not to be rich or be a millionaire. To me, it was I wanted to be in control of my own life. I have a son, and he had school plays, graduations. I didn't want to have to ask somebody permission to go watch that play.
Do a performance,
you know, and because it's happened. We're like, oh, you didn't you know the policy is 2 weeks, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like I work for my son.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so
you
for me,
for some person who doesn't know
yeah,
your son.
Exactly.
No, I get that.
So I just wanted that, and in my mind, I was like, if I can make enough money and deal with less stress, but have a little bit of the freedom to do those types of things, I'll be happy.
Nice.
So then I started the agency here in Sudbury in 2006, and I would say, again, so I brought in my business. I actually took my business partner, who was working for the same organization. He was with them for 25 years.
Wow.
And I started working with them, and after about a year of planning, I told him, I said, look, this is what I'm planning on doing. I need somebody who has that accounting type background. I can do sales, management,
take care of all that marketing.
And I said, would you come with me? He's like, absolutely. He goes, because I've been working with him for years. Like, whatever you do, I'm in.
Nice.
I'm like, perfect. So we did with 50-50. He takes care of his stuff. I take care of my stuff. And it's been phenomenal, right? So that's 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And when we first started, again, with the idea of jumping in, and I think if I was to ever give a lesson to somebody, because a lot of people, I think there's two types of people. There's people who overplan, when they want to start a business, and then there's people who
even starting anything. I've noticed like
anything.
a lot of people,
they almost work themselves out of it,
yeah.
right? And anybody who, in my opinion, wants to start something, just start. Just start.
Just pull the trigger.
Just do it. At least start making phone calls. Start making connections. Start making phone calls. Try and see what the possibilities are, because you're going to learn something from every single one of those phone calls.
100%.
But if you plan for a year, and then you're like, you've actually worked out all the excitement you could possibly have, right? Because the whole time you're dreaming of what you want to achieve, and the dreaming of it almost kills the fact of actually getting it.
Right. It almost puts it on such a high pedestal that you almost can't reach that feeling.
Yeah. Which segues right into me starting my gear company, Big Bush.
Yes.
So I've been on Instagram for a year. I had such a really good following of people very committed to the outdoors and adventure and getting outside, and parents wanting to expose their kids to the outdoors, and everyone was always asking me, like, what do you have for this? What do you have for that? And it ended up influencing a bunch of brands that I respect and that I appreciate. But people expected me to be brutally honest with them, right? And then it was only about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, again, I made certain contacts, and he was like, Andre, I think you should brand your own products. It's like, never thought of it. He's like, yeah. He goes, I could help you. I could source out this, that, that. I was like, I'm doing it.
No kidding.
And it was literally as simple as that. I called Cliff at Cliff Notes.
Yeah, shout out to him.
And I told him, I said, look, I said, I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks now. I have some connections. I could get the gear. This is what I'm thinking of doing. And I'm thinking, do you want to partner up with me to do just the market? You take care of the marketing side. I'll take care of the whole other business end of everything else. Because I did do trade shows. I did push out products. I did, and I'm already pushing other brands, and I already have a huge following. So I don't think there was a hesitation from him one bit. Wow. He's like, dude, I'm in. Yeah. And those are beautiful things, and we've hit the ground running.
100%. Yeah.
The cool thing too is that the page that I opened up for on Instagram, Big Bush Company, it's a gear company, so we're selling our products. It's not even out yet. But my whole goal with that page is to show people the behind the scenes of what happens when you're building a gear company.
It's a lot of fun to watch.
I haven't seen anything like that out there.
No, 100%.
Which I think is like, how often does that happen, right?
Especially nowadays.
Oh, I know. And it's I go on lives every once in a while, and they say the same thing. They're like, dude, I'm committed to whatever you're doing, and I don't even know what you got.
Whatever it is, I'm in. Yeah.
I've come to it is on purpose. It wasn't by accident. It just came out of it. I've learned over time that there's working smart versus working hard, right?
Nice.
You have that on
Yes, sir. Not everything solo.
Yeah, no, for sure. Not everything solo, but also, like, if you can do the analogy of, let's say, a sports athlete, right? You have someone who's past their prime, and let's say a hockey player who's in their late 30s. How are they so good, but they don't have the same stamina, the movement? Why? It's because they play smarter. You know, they position themselves more. They more, you know, so they have to put less work. So there's 18-year-olds running around like crazy. This guy's like, I've seen this play a million times. I'm going to position myself here. I'm going to toss it this way. I could read you a little bit more. That comes over time, right? So he's not working hard. He's working smart. Right?
Whoa. Yeah. I like that. I like that.
So the same idea with me is that I've been doing this so long. I'm not. My intention is never to get into the trenches ever again. And I've come to realize that my strength is not in physically doing the work. My strength is building teams and matching up together teams to make things work. Cool. And whether it's a team of 2, whether it's a team of 5, it's whatever works. I also have a software company that we didn't touch on. So that I have 5 partners. 1, 2, 5.
6 of you?
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's 6 of us, all with different strengths. They're all entrepreneurs. We're actually all have our own businesses. They're all bringing something to the table. And again, you cannot go into business or decide to go down a path in your future thinking I could do it all. Okay. And it's just, if you do, I think people end up getting crushed eventually. Their dreams get crushed. One comparison I could have, if we have time. Do you have time?
Yeah, 100%.
Is my perfect example with my dad. He's not with us anymore, but he did construction his whole life. Amazing at his job. Everyone in the city knew it. He was a backhoe operator, and this man could do amazing things with the backhoe. Okay, he got later on in his life, and only later on, like we're talking in his late 40s, early 50s, did he decide to go on his own. Built a crew, great reputation, did well. where I don't want to say he failed, because he didn't fail. Where he could have done better and what he struggled with was him wanting to do everything on his own.
Yeah.
Because when he was working 60 hours a week to make a living to pay for it, he was actually putting an additional 40 hours to do the stuff that I did for a living, which was payroll, remittances, WSIB, claims management, risk management, all these things that he doesn't, that's not his focus.
Thing, yeah, right? So it takes him longer. But then you lose the passion of what excites you. Yeah. That's when you have to delegate that.
That's when you have to delegate, right? Okay. And you have to come to, that's where people have to put their return on investment, when you say, okay, well, if I could only afford this business if I put in 100 hours a week and I'm burnt out, is it really worth it for me?
Right.
But if you're making enough money that you could delegate, and that stress gives you the reward of allowing you to do those things you love.
The balance.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people talk about the work-life balance, and I think that's way more relevant with a business owner. And I think people often sometimes think that being a business owner is either it's easy or it has to be a super big company, and it doesn't have to be either. It could be a small company that kind of feeds your passion. Like I also do woodwork. I sell barnwood furniture, those big slab furniture, benches, tables. It's for fun. I like doing it. I don't make it a business because it's actually something that I truly enjoy and I'm passionate about. Nice. And the idea of you asking me, hey, can you make me a table? And I make it, and you're like, oh, I don't like this corner. I'd be like, I'm not interested anymore. Yeah. Like, I'd rather create something.
Table, yeah.
Do you want it? It's all yours.
Yeah,
you know?
If you don't, well.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Yeah, firewood.
Yeah, no, for sure. Nice. I think that's it. Like the working smart, working hard thing, I think is really important for not only just career paths, but I think just starting your own business.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Let's backtrack a bit to what time in your life did you get started on the survival skills and the survival guy?
Like my personal personal page stuff. Yeah. So I grew up when I lived with my dad. I lived on the farm. So I was always exposed to acres, and you're pretty much just creating cabins and just being out all day. When I lived with my mom, we had 100 acres out in North Bay, which we still have today. Wow. That we have a hunt camp, a sugar shack, a bass lake. It's pretty sweet. That's sick. Yeah. So my brother takes care of that. He lives out there now. But I was always exposed to it, but we never called it anything back then. Like when you were younger and you built forts in the bush, it was never called anything. It was just like, we're going to go in the bush, build a fort. Yeah. You know. So for the sake of this conversation, we'll call it bushcraft, because that's like the term everyone's kind of using. Which there's different understandings of what that means to different people. The basis of it is really just going back to the roots of using nature to enjoy nature, right? Huh. Okay. So it's not necessarily there's real raw bushcraft people who don't have phones or who are not on social media because they're out there living in the woods and they're living off the land, right? And then there's the modern bushcraft, which is kind of like what I consider. So bushcraft people really love gear. Like they love their pans, their fire steels, their tarps, and they like everything. So it came about. Do you want me to jump into how I got onto the Instagram side of it? Because when I started, like I was in Scouts when I was younger. Yeah. I didn't really like Scouts.
Yeah, we can hop into that.
Yeah, I didn't really. And I'm not knocking. I don't know what the Scouts are like now, whatsoever. Yeah. Back then, it was just so much of a large group, and you learned so many little things. But when you're so young and eager, you want to learn so much. I didn't think it was really given. Yeah. They weren't giving the attention to the things that you really wanted to learn.
I get that.
Right. Yeah. So just as I got older, I would say maybe about 5 years ago, it really came to a time where I got so busy with all my companies. I have 4 kids. Yeah. Life is just hectic. And once in a while, I would go for a walk or a hike, or I'd go hunting. And I would just be alone. I'd just be alone and just euphoric moments where there's something that spoke to me, and it's really hard to explain unless you've experienced it, because I feel like it was there at my fingertips the whole time. I feel like I took advantage of those opportunities because now as an adult, it was like hustle and bustle and forget what really feeds your soul.
It's almost like a freedom feeling.
Oh,
when you're removed from the space, and this is why I want to get into it, because I ran canoe trips growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Like through summer camps and outdoor centers. So I was like, oh, this is the guy I want to talk about this. But so I know exactly what you mean. Like you can't see cars, you can't hear them, you can't see street lights. Yeah. You can't see, like, you're above on like a hill or on a mountain, and you look and all you see is tree as far as the eye can see. Like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, and you're completely reliant on you.
100%.
Right? And I think it's even scarier when you are... Other people depend on you. So if you were doing a canoe trip, I could only imagine. I took Mitch out once. I don't know if you ever want to touch on that.
Oh, yeah, we can get it.
It was somewhat nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you have those moments, and if any of your listeners are listening, if you ever have an opportunity to be in a safe place where you're comfortable and you could actually just go out in the woods and just lay down, preferably in the fall, right? Yeah. There's no bugs, that's perfect. And you just lay down, close your eyes, or just look up and just listen. Like, if you listen for like an hour, you will hear every squirrel, every bird, every wind, every smell. And as, you know, people get into meditation, to me, that is my...
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, you don't need to listen to sounds, no. That's it. That's your app right there.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, I love the idea of working hard, and I have limited time to build a shelter. Maybe it's natural shelter, maybe it's a tarp. The moment you spark up that fire, and it's just before dusk, dawn. I always get mixed up between those two. Sundown. Yeah. I always get mixed up too. And you sit down, your fire's going, and you're having yourself a coffee, and you're just sitting there, and it's just that another just chill moment. It's like, zen, those are the moments I wait for, that exact moment. But I never really, so I knew I had that, and I was like, I really want to get into this. And that's when I started looking up on YouTube, and I started seeing all this like bushcraft stuff. I'm like, these are like adult Boy Scouts.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm like, this is amazing. Awesome. You know? And that's just, it's really how I got into it. And I became like 3 hours a day. Whenever I could.
Yeah,
I'm looking up, couldn't take it, like 2 years of just obsessing, you know, seeing, learning. I didn't even know people were doing that type of hammock camping. I didn't know people doing tarp stuff. I just I knew what it was like to go and camp, but not that level, right? Yeah. Like sleeping outside in the snow right next to your fire, and just having like a bivvy, or just wild. And I was like, I gotta do this. And I'm gonna tell you, my very first time I did a solo overnight in the woods, it was the most euphoric moment I've ever had in my life. Nice. It was on my property out in North Bay. And I set up a hammock, I have a tarp, and the way I set it up was that, so let's say I'm this way on the hammock, and a tarp leaning this way, so 2 trees, and I had my tarp going like this. So any animal had to basically come around the trees and the tarp, but then we're faced with a fire right next to it. So that was my sense of comfort, right? Nice. Equally, I always go with bear spray. Yeah. I have a lot of followers who was like, and I was like, even if you're going for a hike, just bring a little can of bear spray. And it's not always for a bear. There's wolves, there's coyotes, could be wild dogs. The biggest fear a lot of people have is other people who should not be out running around the woods. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's. And I've heard a lot of stories.
More afraid of,
Very scary, so I always have my fire steel, I always have my alarm and my bear spray. Alarm is actually it's like a little pole, which I'll show you another time.
Yeah, for sure. Please.
It's really loud. They test it on grizzlies. You pull it, it's like, whoa, 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 really loud. Like, even a human wouldn't even want to stick around. They're like, what the hell is this? So, because you're dependent on your skill, you get set up in your hammock, and you literally you make sure everything's where it needs to be. You're not looking for stuff, so that way there, you know, if you have to wake up in the middle of the night, quick and fast, you know where your stuff is. The reason I say that is because it was around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had a bear walk up on me behind. So we never knew we had bears on that property. We had no idea.
Tough time.
I know. I know.
Bro.
I'll be completely honest with you.
That's wild.
I was so calm.
Yeah?
Even if I look back, I don't even know if I would be that calm now.
Huh.
And so I'm laying there, and I hear like a big footstep. And right away my eyes kind of open up. And I was like, okay, what's that? And my fire was kind of half, you know, going down. And then I hear another like, and then I hear like a little grunt. And I was like, okay, it's a bear. Yeah. So then I reached over, grabbed my alarm, pulled it for like 10 seconds, closed it up, listened. I didn't hear a sound, so he took off. I literally just want to. I put another couple logs, fire one up, and I just went to bed.
Nice.
Totally comfortable. And I woke up in the morning, waking up, like just stars above me, and
wow,
the smell from the woods, that morning air,
yeah.
the side heat from the fire. I just pulled it like.
Man.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah,
like,
as well. No kidding.
It's just like such a wicked feeling. It's amazing. It's just like it's a different world. And I got up feeling like king of the world. I feel like at that point I was like, you know what? If I get lost, I'm fine. I don't need to panic. I'm comfortable. It's one of those things I just feel like I had to do.
The fear is bears, and then you're like
bears, and you know what? Some people it's nighttime in the woods.
Yeah.
Like I've heard stories of adults, grown men who hunt, fish, do everything, who went on big snowmobile parties where all of a sudden something breaks down and they say, okay, well, we're going to stay overnight. Full panic. Like have to pin you down, like, freaking out, ballistic. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Like some people, the idea of being alone in the woods, maybe because of past experience, I don't know. I'm claustrophobic, so, you know, if someone was to, like, hold me really tight, I lose a light. So, whatever the reason is. But it's just, at nighttime, animals, the forest is different. The forest is quiet at night. No one walks around. There's no squirrels, there's no birds. If you hear something, it's a raccoon, porcupine, or a bear, or a deer, or something like that. But that was like the craziest, my first night, which I think to me really solidified my passion and love for doing that.
Nice.
And from that point on, I started my whole. I became an influencer for certain brands. I started my Instagram page. With that, I ended up meeting so many great contacts, including Cliff. Because of Cliff, I ended up going to a UFC fight where I met Mitch.
Yeah.
And what happening was I turned 40 last year, and my plan was for the fall, August, September, to do a solo Alaska hiking trip. Wow. Which would have been epic. Yeah. You know,
you drive to Alaska and then start?
No, fly, and then I had a guide who was going to meet me, drop me off, do a couple photo shoots while I was there, but then from that, just take off. My goal to this day, I want to find an epic place, and I think it's going to be Alaska, is I want to climb, I'm not talking like a mountain peak, I want to climb a hill where it's kind of clear at the top, where I want to see the sun. I want to go down to bed and watch the sun, because I'm obsessed with sunrise and sunsets.
100%.
So I want to see it go down, and I don't want to wake up to it coming to the other side. And I'll be like, I'm going to feel like that's a life accomplishment. I need to do it. And it doesn't, it's only effort. It's not a money, it's not nothing, it's a skill set, and it's just wait for it.
Yeah, and you can develop those skills
100%.
for sure. Yeah.
But doing that trip, it got canceled because there was fires over half of Alaska, and most people didn't know about it because Amazon was half on fire. So no one gave a shit about, or no one cared about Alaska.
Yeah, in the rainforest.
And so that kind of took precedence. So I had to cancel my trip, and then Mitch was training me at the time. He was my personal trainer, because the whole point was to train me for endurance, right? And when it got canceled, he's like, what are you going to do now? I was like, well, I'm going to basically create a trip where everyone on Instagram dictates what I do and where I go.
I like that.
So they ended up, every day I'd put up there, say, do you want me to be in Calgary or Northern Ontario? Do you want land or island? Reception or off-grid? Food, no food.
Pillow or no
pillow. Yeah, that was Mitch. That was Mitch.
Yes, sir.
I feel he kind of really sullied that whole you know, and it got to the point where Mitch was like, you do cool stuff, I want to do this with you. Yeah. I was like, it's not up to me, it's up to the followers on Instagram. I swear to you, I really didn't think they'd vote for him. No, I thought there was.
Did you say, hey, Mitch wants to do it, yes or no?
Well, it started off with Mitch putting out there, he's like, hey Andre, he goes, I want to go on your trip with you, and I want your followers to vote. So I reposted, and it was like, hey guys, if you guys want Mitch to go, if you think this is going to be great,
let him know.
Like, it was like 98% said yes. Wow. And I was like, oh, no.
Crap, I don't want to bring this guy.
Because I had no idea what his skill set was. And I had his friends and family say, dude, you're going to experience a lot of messed up stuff. And Mitch goes with you. So I was like, let's do it. Because I'm a big believer. If everything goes as planned, it's not as fun. Like, it needs to be,
I don't like,
you know.
Yeah, I don't like planning.
So the end result was my followers picked I have to bring Mitch. I have to bring Mitch. Yeah. We were allowed to bring a canoe. It was on an island, remote, Northern Ontario, no food, minimal gear, and no food. I was allowed to bring a fishing line, no fishing rod, no bait.
You can bring a hook, like a line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if we didn't find any bait, we couldn't find anything, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we found the island. We finally got to the island we wanted to. We walked across the island. We spent a couple hours walking the whole time looking for grubs, frogs, something.
Something to catch, yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. Oh, no.
Yeah. So after we did the tour, we figured this is going to be the best spot.
Right.
You know, we figured, okay, sunset's going to go down here, sunrise, wind. It's very important when you set up a shelter, like, just how you set it up, period. It's going to be so nice on it. So we literally, I know it sounds romantic, but we slept under the stars. Okay? But created this really cool elevated platform. Okay, I don't know if you ever saw the pictures, but it's a really cool elevated platform. We almost did like a tripod.
Yeah.
Where we had a platform. Yeah. We picked up or pulled apart 1 foot thick moss, peat moss or something. I don't know what it's called. We basically spent hours rolling it, making our whole bed on top of it, right by the fire. We slept phenomenal. Nice. We didn't eat though, because we had nothing. The next day, while we were going through the water, we realized there's crayfish. Okay, perfect. Let's do crayfish. Unfortunately, for me, Mitch is terrified of crayfish.
No kidding.
Terrified.
Dude, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use it.
He roasted me a week
ago. Then he roasted me a week ago being afraid of snakes. And I'm like,
are you serious?
Dude, if that's the one thing, though, like he's got crayfish, some people have spiders.
I had video of him being like, I was like, you're afraid? He's like, I'd rather get punched in the face. He was putting his hand in a bag to pick one, and he was like terrified. He's like, you should see the size of this thing. And it bites him, and he screams.
What?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Oh, man.
But so, long story short, we were there for 4 or 5 days. We built this epic shelter. Mitch's main role was, he was the one who caught all the fish.
Nice.
Because he loves doing it, so I would catch a crayfish for him. Maybe sometimes put it on the hook for him. I don't know, I'm exaggerating that one.
All the time.
He's going to watch this and be like, no. And, but we caught at least 2, we each had at least 1 full fish every day. And I eat really, really clean. So what we did is, after we had filleted the fish, we would actually cook it on the rocks. We'd put a little bit of Himalayan salt, and I would keep the bones in the head and make fish head bone broth soup to get all the vitamins and everything out of it. It was amazing. It was so good. So our routine every day was, we get up, he goes out with the canoe with the crayfish that I caught, tries to catch fish. I make the coffee. He gets back. We fillet the fish. We have coffee together. We have breakfast, which is fish. We actually slow cook just to reduce the water up until noon. Around noon, we have the bone broth, so it gives us all of our fat and our vitamins. And at night, again, we have coffee. He tries to catch us more fish. And it was basically every day we add a little bit more to the shelter, discover a little bit more. It was amazing. We did some really cool stuff then. Let me know which one you want to see. I lost Mitch day 1. That's a whole story. Yeah. Within a couple hours of us getting there, I lost him. That's one story. If you want, if we have time to get into it, let me know.
All time in the world.
We built a bushcraft steam room.
Sauna. Oh yeah. Oh man.
It was so good. I'm like, the moment I came out with that, the amount of response I had globally, I had people from all over the world. They're like, dude, if ever you go somewhere, I want to go with you, and we're gonna do this exact same thing. I'm gonna do it every time, every trip. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So like a steam room sauna. I lost him. What was the other big thing that we did? Oh yeah, and day 3 or 4. It was one of the scariest things I've ever been through, which was we almost had hypothermia, and it was very, very critical. So, which one of those do you want to hear the story? If you want to hear any of those.
I know Mitch's version of the getting lost. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Well, it is 2 perspectives. For him, he was like, I was going fishing. What's the problem? Yeah. Right. The thing is with me, and I'll try to round out the story.
With the sauna one.
You want the sauna or the losing him one?
The sauna one.
Okay, the sauna one.
For sure.
So I had brought a tarp because I knew a smaller tarp. I knew I wanted to attempt to do this steam room sauna, even though I didn't want to be part of the shelter. So what we did was I actually took small little greenlings or whatever, just like, really thin little like weed trees, and really thin ones. And what I did is I bent them and ended up tying. Like I started off with 2, tied the top, just with like roots, string, or whatever like that. Basically made a bird cage. Okay, that was just big enough, maybe like from here to there. Made a bird cage with a little opening, put the tarp over top, and Mitch found two like big rocks that we each sit face to face, and then we just basically found a place where we could put all the rocks. But what we did was the fire was just off to the side, so we spent hours we found the perfect sized rocks, heat them up while we cooked, while we did everything, and then later on at night we were right by the fire. We'd take a stick, two sticks, and actually pick up these rocks, put them right next to us, hop in, put over the tarp, grab our little container with water, and just steam would just come over.
No!
The water was so cold, you couldn't go swimming on your own, but because you got the steam and the heat, we went for that and we jumped in, and it was like, you'd come out and it's just like steam coming off you, and it was amazing. It was like a bushcraft spa. Yeah. You felt like $1 million. It was amazing.
Where'd you come up with that idea? You see it?
No, I just thought of it. Yeah. You know, like there's
because the concept seems like relatively manageable to do.
Oh, it's super easy to do. Well, if you compare it to First Nation people do sweat lodges, right? It's typically men with the tarp and a big teepee. Where for me, it's a big process and it's a ceremony. Whereas for me, I just needed a dome to get a little steam going, right? And I'd say it's relatively easy. And I think it could be very easy to accomplish making almost like a tripod or a four tall branches, right? I just did that cage because in my mind, I wanted to see if I could make that cage. Because the cool thing is, we just wherever we wanted to go, if it was sunrise or sundown, depending on which side of the island, we just pick it up, bring it over the other side, put it over the tarp. It was awesome. We had so much fun, and it was amazing. I think that is something I'm always going to remember, and it's something I'm always going to try to do. Nice, right? Especially when you have like, you're hot, you're sweating all day, and it's just like that refreshing. Oh yeah, and it was late August, beginning September. Can't remember exact date, but it was amazing. Nice. So is that the pneumonia one? You want to hear that one?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get into that.
So it was the third or fourth day. And we were out looking for crayfish, and all of a sudden it started to rain. Now we don't know the forecast because we don't have reception or anything. Clouds start coming over, and then it just starts to rain. The whole time we have our fire that's set up, which is fine. But then it's just like torrential downpour. You're fine, but on our way back, we were like halfway down, going down the island, we realized our fire. All the firewood's out. Our fire, everything. So in other words, we're going to go back to no fire, and all the fire we collected is soaked. So basically, we've worked for nothing. The biggest concern I have, and like Mitch was like, oh, no big deal. Like, we'll just, and I was like, you don't understand. It's like, it's going to go down to +5, which a lot of people don't realize. Your fridge is +5. Yeah, that's cold. Well, that's, if you're wet, and it's +5, it's hypothermia.
Pouring rain, +5,
So when we get there, and I told Mitch, I was like, when we get back, it's go time. He's like, okay. And I'm like, this is not, and we weren't joking. Like, and I was like, this is no joke.
It's like no.
And Mitch knew, and he was like, what do you need me to do? I'm like, we just have to find dry fire. He's like, how? And so we found dry firewood, or created dry firewood. Just how you collect it.
Collect it underneath like deciduous trees, or
see, a lot of people don't realize that when a tree gets wet, it's the outside of it.
Peel the layers.
So you cut it and you cut down the middle, and you keep on opening them up, and then the whole middle is all dry. Right? It's just the outer shell. So out of a log that's this big, once you actually cut in half, you have your triangle. You just cut the So then we stored it underneath. And then we created a whole fire, and I actually took wax canvas, the one that I bought for the steam room. I actually used that. That's when it's my first attempt at making a wax canvas tarp. We actually put the shell over the bird cage that we use for the steam room, put it over the fire.
Smart.
Okay. Yeah. So now the heat, it's fire resistant.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's fire resistant, small one. Yeah. We actually slept the best that night. The best that night. Oh, that's wild. Because we stopped the wind, we stopped the rain, we had the heat, coming over. And then the next day I showed Mitch the concept of actually building a long fire but with a high back, and how much it actually projects back into our tripod dome. Yeah. It was amazing. Nice. It was so good. Yeah. But we have pictures of us just like drenched and soaked, and we just like, but experience of a lifetime. Yeah. For sure.
Nice. Yeah. So it was like a 5-day trip, or was it like the weekend trip?
No, it was like, no.
I felt it was longer than
5. I think it was 5 days. Yeah. So this year, because I turned 40, my goal was to do Alaska, and I didn't get to do it. So this year I want to do it, and Mitch was like, I want to go with you to Alaska. So I might make it an annual thing where Mitch comes.
That'd be pretty cool.
Trip.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
He was pretty excited about it, so we'll see.
Yeah,
not only that, but
kind of stuff.
my business partners, including my family, wasn't too keen on me going to Alaska by myself. Because all the grizzlies and all the...
Yeah, and like, there's mountain lions.
I know. But it's one of those things that...
Oh, man.
I feel like I like the idea of pushing myself. Obviously, I'm not going to go into Grizzly Canyon. I'm going to try to have like...
I'd bring like a 12 gauge if I were you too.
Maybe. See if I can get away with one
See
there.
if the followers let you.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know what the rules are to actually, if I'm allowed to even bring in a gun, right? Or can I not bring a gun but get one when I'm there? I don't know.
I'm sure you could. I mean, it's
Alaska.
Yeah. It should be fine.
No, I know for sure.
Close to Russia.
Yeah.
Hop over for it. Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy though. Because I remember back to what you said earlier with like solo, and then running like trips with people. The first trip I ran that was not an overnight was I think I was like 19, and I ran it with another woman. She was I think my age, and it was overnight. It was like four nights, 5 days on.
Just the two of you, or did you have people?
Two of us, and we were running because I was running a leadership group, and there were 3 of them, so they were all 15.
Okay. And
so me and this woman who I met like a week ago now have to run these 3 15-year-olds through a kayak trip around this island in Lake Huron, and so we're like, okay, that's the battle now. With depending on somebody, and I like what you said, because this is where the story gets inspiration to tell, is you can't really depend on anybody but yourself in those situations.
True.
It's you and what you know, and we're kayaking in Lake Huron.
You could rely on someone.
Yeah.
You can't depend on
Depending is a little... There's the line we can play with, right?
Sure.
So I remember this kid, Connor, I think he was one of my favorites too at the time. He, no, we don't pick favorites, but anyways... Yeah, so
Connor, you're the favorite.
Connor's the best. He was just a really funny guy, and he knew when to kind of like bite down on the mouthpiece and like do the skills we had to do. So, anyways, we're paddling around, and we get caught a bit further away from shore, right? And we come up, and it kind of comes around, and the island it opens up.
Okay.
And so now we're in like the abyss of Lake Huron, and we're supposed to stay close to shore, right? So waves are all right. But as we come around, Connor's boat kind of drifts out and back. And he starts freaking out, and she's like, I can't do this. I can't get... I'm like, man, I'm in a kayak too. I can't... I'm like, there's 2 other people in the other council. Yeah. I'm like, you watch them. I'm like, but if I go out there, and I don't know if I'll be able to manage it. We're already fighting these waves. Yeah. Like 50 feet from shore, now about a couple hundred meters. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. So, anyways, I'm like, man, I'm like mustering all my inspirational words. I'm like, discipline, focus, you can do it. Well, he ends up, I'm like, man, just grab the paddle. Go. He's like in tears. He's like panicking. I'm like, oh no. So I like paddle out. I'm like, okay, do I have a rope? What do I got? I had a throw rope. So I had that in the back attached. I'm like, okay, I could pull him. But I go up, I'm like, Connor, if I do this, like, I need you.
Yeah, you need to push you.
I need you to like push.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna tie us up. I'm gonna focus on this. Yeah. I need you to be ready to paddle. Yeah. Figure this out. Yeah. By the time I'm ready, you need to be ready. She's like, oh, he's like, wipe. I'm like, wipe the tears away. Like, you gotta go. He like ends up, luckily for me, we tie the boats together, and now the boats start drifting off further and further. I'm like, Connor.
The whole time he's going,
And he's like, man, like I can't. I'm like, I need you. I can't pull you and myself out of this.
Yeah. It's hard enough you on your own.
Yeah, I'm like, he failed to get out. Even like he couldn't get back in by himself. I'm like, hey man, you have to paddle as hard as you can, as hard as you ever had to paddle. Yeah. I need you to get out of this right now, because right now I'm now a part of this.
Yeah, exactly.
This is now,
and you're not.
It's not just you now. It's both of us.
I love this so much. Yeah.
It's like we end up paddling out and going back, and I was like, man, this is insane. We get back to the group. We ended up making it in. He gets back, and he like just collapses.
Oh, for sure.
And I was like, how was that? You feel good? He's like, man, I didn't think we'd make it. I was like, to be honest, me neither, but I'm glad we did it, buddy.
That's amazing.
You and me, homie. Oh,
that's
man.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so that was, I love those trips. I love those kind of trips. So.
I had one similar 4 years ago. I went with my son, my oldest son. We went by South Bay Mouth.
Yeah.
We did like a 4 or 5 day trip there. It was absolutely amazing. But I brought my 14 or 12 foot aluminum.
Yeah, nice.
With like my 4 horsepower, right? Not knowing what the big water is like. Okay.
Yeah,
I knew when I say this too, everyone's like, You're stupid. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So we ended up bringing it to our spot, and it was so tricky because all of a sudden the water's calm. We're like, let's go.
Like perfect.
You go 100 meters, chaos. Oh, massive.
Yeah.
What I've never experienced in my life was when you're on a small lake, you get the wave with the winds going this way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're on the big water, you have those waves coming this way, but then you have the rolling waves coming the other direction.
Just
like
the rolling
big
ones that
right?
get you, yeah.
So now you're in a situation where what really scared us is that we got caught. You know when you say you got pushed out, I was like, I know that. Like you could see like 200 feet down in south. It's the water's so clear, right? I could see the bottom.
Intimidating.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So we're like far, like we could barely see shore.
Oh man.
Okay. So and the thing is now these big waves. So when a wave is coming up and when you're at the bottom, you can't see the top. Like it's one of those, and I have a small little boat. So all of a sudden, I'm going up. So I use I'm maxing out.
Yeah,
trying to get up because I'm going backwards, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get up, and my motor would almost gas out when it tips over. So now I had to like stall it and then. But now I'm going down a hill, down the water this way, while wind is blowing this way, big waves. So then I had to like adjust, but then I would adjust one way. My son would counterbalance, almost making us tip. We did this about 5 times.
This your elder son, eh?
My oldest son, he's 20 now. Him and I have never been so scared.
Oh, I can imagine.
We like boats going like,
and seeing the bottom at the time too just adds that little.
The closest thing to a possible like the shore, like instead of going to our shore this way, we were like, okay, we're gonna hit up the shore this side because the waves were pushing it this way. But to get to that bay, there was a mini island. But the waves are so big that if we would have went to it, it was like the waves are crashing. Like we would have just crushed ourselves. Wow. So we had to like let ourselves go all the way around. But then when we finally got to shore, same experience as you. We get to the point where we're about to get to the shore. The waves are so big. He was at the very tip, and we had to time the wave coming up to him to jump off with the rope, hoping he somehow doesn't slip and get. When he finally got there and pulled us in, we did the exact same thing. Yeah. We tied off. I was like, I don't care if this boat breaks. We're just collapsed, and we just laid there for like ever.
What just place? Yeah.
It was super wild. It was super wild.
It's. I think there are 2 types of experiences people face, right? One is those type of scenarios that both of us went through, and then where it's like during the adventure, it's like this is absolute pandemonium. Yeah. You realize how little control you have over anything going on around you, especially like
you're
other
so
people.
Insignificant.
Yeah, 0. And then I'm like, all right, this is wild. And then they're the type of experiences where, like a roller coaster. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. You go, you're like, this is crazy as it's happening, and then after it, you're kind of, well, yeah. But you don't look back on that 3rd time you rode the Leviathan with your buddies when you were in grade 11. But you look back on this 10 years later or whatever, and you're like, wow, that's incredible, and you still feel the same way you feel, and can't believe you came out of that experience the way you did.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think each one of those, like, I think are growth moments.
100%.
Like. Yeah. If you don't come out of a moment like that, either feeling better about yourself or learning some type of lesson, then you probably did something wrong.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, those experiences are what I think a lot of people need to face, especially at like a younger age as they develop. Like I think definitely when I went through, and like that's just an easy like example that I have to relate, but it's you do find out a lot more about yourself. Not only is it humbling, but the perspective you get on, like we said, like your significance of where you are. It's like the world, and let alone, well, the world on like the biggest scale. But even you're just in, like, I'm in a lake, you're in a lake, and it's not a big space, but you're very insignificant in those moments, and you kind of, I feel super humbled when those things happen, and they just blows my mind that you can come out of those alive and think, wow, I can't believe we did that, man.
Well, and I have a lot of friends who fish on the big water, and then when they hear this story, they're like, dude, we have like 30-foot, 40-foot boats, and we don't do that.
We don't. You're like,
and
what?
I was on a 12-footer with a 4-horsepower motor.
I'm sure if they told you that before, you'd be like, well, my confidence on this, I'm bring my little 2-stroke motor, we're good to go. Yeah. That's awesome.
Maybe one day I'll go fishing, I'll show up with that next to their boat. Like, let's do this.
This make me want to go on like an adventure soon, though.
Yeah, when was the last time you did one?
Camping trip with a girlfriend at the end of last year. But other than that, it's not. I think it was like a month or 2 after you and Mitch went. I went on just 2-day overnight.
Yeah.
Or 2-night overnight. So.
Did you ever?
But nothing extreme or like canoe trip. Like I fucking want to go on one so bad now. Especially talking to you. Yeah.
Like, does it have to be canoe?
Doesn't matter. No, because I did kayaks. That one that I was telling you about. Yeah. So, but canoes are just something. I have very easy access to canoes.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Because I want to do Alaska this year. There's one that I've been wanting to do, which I found out this woman has a huge acreage. Nice. I want to do horseback.
No kidding.
So if I do that, would you want to come?
Yes, please. Yeah, I've ridden horses before. They're sick. So
I just to me, I'm not looking for. So I grew up with horses, but to me, riding a horse is kind of like riding a bike. Mm-hmm. It hurts. After a while, crotch, I can never get the momentum right.
No. Even on riding a bike, you can callus it up.
So for me, just the idea of like lightly packing, still minimal, right? If we find a stream or a lake to fish, great. But the whole idea is just bringing minimal gear,
essentials,
and it's just basically setting up. Like I just want to ride a horse, find a spot, do your shelter, have a fire, grab some grub, talk with friends. Bring a photographer, bring a videographer, do whatever. Just record the whole thing. Nice. And I think I want to do that. I want to plan that trip kind of like almost like for Big Bush.
That'd be sick.
And then just kind of record and put it out there.
That'd be pretty sweet.
It'd be fun. So if I do that, you're going to come?
100%. Please. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those type of trips are something that I want to meet, and thankful for the show. I'm able to meet people like you, and especially like Mitch and stuff, and able to work on different projects and just discover people who are very passion driven, and that's what I found. I like getting involved in stuff like that and meeting type of people like that, and I think that would be absolutely insane.
It'd be fun.
I think it's sweet. Like I got cameras, all videographer, everything.
Like, wicked. Yeah, that's cool.
The whole thing, whatever you want them in.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because a lot of the plan with what I want to do with Big Bush, I want to do different adventures, even if it's one day and always have. So if you're coming, you want to do that. That's it. You'll be that person. For that process. So it's actually like
for that one
I want to do it where I don't want to control or dictate what we'll call it director type. Like if you know the trip and you're like, okay, let's do it like this. Let's get it from this. Let's see what you come out with. And then every other trip, I'm going to do it different. They're going to have a different angle, different perspective, different.
I like that a lot. And I want to touch on it earlier, but the one thing I noticed, and I can't remember who said it. I think it was like Casey Neistat in one of the videos. He says, if you don't plan anything, or if you don't plan a trip, what you're saying is anything is possible. Yeah. And I love that. Because when I went to Europe, South America, everything, like, I've gone on planned trips, very planned, like down to the hour trips, and I've gone on trips that are, let's go to, we could drive to Sarajevo tonight, bro. Like, that's just a video I'm working on now, so I thought of it, and I was like, man, we didn't really plan much of the Europe trip I went on. And it's like, no, but we planned a lot on that South America one, but then if you go on different trips and you don't really plan, it kind of gives you that ability that cool stories can happen, right? Yeah.
Well, I have one where I'm on the fence because I had a female follower that messaged me. She says, would you ever do an all-girls trip? And she goes, because I have friends who, it's not that they don't, I think it's more that these women are very independent and they just want to challenge themselves, kind of like what I did with me and Mitch.
I like that, yeah.
Just for pushing themselves. They know they can. But the idea of me showing them certain, either setting up a shelter, how to use a fire steel, or just like I don't think people want or need to know everything, but they want to have the confidence of not panicking if they're in these situations.
Right, like that snowmobile story.
Yeah. So to me, I was like, yeah, that's great. Now I already have, I think maybe 5 to 6 women who are already. So it's just to do, and I've thought about. I was like, okay, where am I going to go? And I was like, I feel like I might not want to plan it. I don't know if I want to go somewhere that I know. Yeah. I want to like if I'm experiencing a new environment. I want to know what they're feeling.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real.
It's not like, he knows. It's all. They might have that.
Like, over the hill.
Andre knows where we are. We're fine.
Like, this is all new. We're doing this together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whatever I'm experiencing.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's something. It just I want it to be an experience. Anything that I do, I want it to be where that episode that is never forgotten.
No kidding. No, the experience is. That sounds sweet.
Yeah, so I got a few things. I got a few things going on this year, so I think it'd be fun.
That'd be sweet. Yeah. Well, man, count me in for that horseback trip.
That'd be excited.
Insane, yeah, me too, and I'm super grateful you're able to be on the show.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Really appreciate your time, brother.
Awesome, thanks. Man.
Awesome, thank you.